Welcome back to Open Window Politics. Today we're going to be going through my latest prediction for the 2024 presidential election. We'll be going through each of the swing states, and I'll be giving them a characterization of which party I think will end up winning each state. So we already got the solid, likely, and lean states set up here with the lean states for the Democrats, Minnesota, New Hampshire, as well as the one congressional district in Nebraska. And then for the Republicans, I believe we just have the state of North Carolina. Anyhow, but we'll get started with the true swing states, which are 77 of the Electoral College votes, and they can determine who is the eventual victor in this map. All right, so we'll start out on the West Coast and then go eastward. So in the state of Nevada, Nevada is going to be a bit of an interesting story. Let's go and check polls in the state. Nevada the polls have been going towards Trump lately, but it is still a pretty close call, so we'll have to see what ends up happening. We hear some of the latest polls. So there is one with Trump up by 3 and another with Biden up by 1. Things are getting a little closer. It used to be the polls were indicating Trump up by 5 or 3 here. The Senate election is almost certainly going to Jackie Rosen. She is doing very well in the polls, but on the presidential level, I think it's probably going to be likely in the tilt Trump column. We'll add a tilt characterization for us to help with that. We'll do tilt here. There we go. So that gives Trump 241 Electoral College votes to Biden's 226. Then we'll go to the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona is a bit of an interesting one. There's an abortion referendum that's going to be on the ballot at the same time as the presidential election, which is likely going to be impacting the Senate election as well as the presidential election. So for the polls from 538 for the state of Arizona, we have this one poll of Trump up by 10, which definitely isn't going to happen. Then another of him up by 6, which is still very unlikely. If Trump is going to win the state, it's going to be by 1 or maybe 2 points, or at a very far reach, maybe 3 points. But it is not going to be anything major like 10 points. Anyhow, so that is a bit of not the best poll there. In the Senate level, the Democrat is up usually in pretty much every poll by a decent margin, 3 points there, 5 points there, 1 point there. So not too great, definitely within the margin of error on a few of those, but it will be interesting to see what happens. And then on the presidential level, let's check out that one first. So Biden is currently ahead by 0.3% in the projection of who's favored to win the presidential election. And Biden is going to probably need to do a lot better than that in order to be able to secure an electoral college victory. I believe he will need to be up by probably around 3 points at a minimum probably quite a few points in order to, because he will likely secure the popular vote, but he will also need to win the electoral college vote, which is going to be a bit of a more difficult story for the Biden campaign. We'll have to see what ends up happening, but currently with him up by 0.3, it may not be enough to have him secure the presidency. We'll have to see what happens on a state-by-state basis. We also have Kennedy here at about 10%. He's been hovering in 9 or 10% most of the time, and seems to be taking away more votes from slightly more from the Trump campaign than the Biden campaign. So he seems to kind of be not really impacting either campaign very much. His campaign hasn't been doing very well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. And then next up, we'll go back to the state of Arizona. That's Alaska. So the Arizona polls. And in Arizona, Trump is up on an average of about 2.8 to Biden's 39.6%, to Trump's 42.4. All of these polls are solid, well, pretty red, for the Trump campaign. So we're going to give the state of Arizona. On the Senate level, I think it'll be a different story, but on the presidential level, I see it being a tilt Republican state. And next up, we get to the state, well, actually, let's go to Georgia here. So in Georgia is going to be...
Traffic to Georgia is pretty clear. The fastest route takes about 26 hours, 31 minutes.
All right. And then we get to the state of Georgia. So Georgia, we'll go there. 1 second. And so in the state of Georgia, it's an even better story for the Trump campaign. He is up by 4.7 points. Biden's got 39% with Trump's 43.6 and Kennedy's 8.6. So it is looking pretty good for Trump in Georgia. Even the Democratic-leaning poll has Trump up by 1 or 2. So things are not looking great for Biden in the state of Georgia. So I could maybe even see this being a lean characteristic. For now, we'll keep it as tilt, but it is possible that something could change that would indicate something else. But for now, we'll go with that. So Trump is only 2 electoral college votes away from becoming the next president. Biden would have to win every single swing state left in order to be able to hit 270 electoral college votes. Let's start out with the smallest one. We'll go to Wisconsin. Let's start looking at the polls in Wisconsin. We'll go... Here we are. So in the state of Wisconsin, here we'll go to the polls. So Biden is currently up by 0.3, which is very, very thin margin. There have been some polls with Trump up by 2 or 3. The ones before that had Biden up by 5 and 7. So I think this is going to be a close election. It's probably going to be one of the closest, maybe even the closest. But for now, I think it is reasonable to give it a tilt Democratic lean. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but for now we'll go with that. Then we get to the state of Michigan. All right, let's go over to the polls in Michigan. So Michigan is probably going to be a different story. We'll see what ends up happening, but it will likely be a more solid margin. In 2016, it was the narrowest state in the Rust Belt that went to Trump. All right, so in Michigan, Biden is up by 0.6, so they just take an average of a bunch of the polls. However, the more recent polls have Biden up by 1 or 2 points, thin the margin of error certainly, so we'll have to see what ends up happening. But for now, I think it is fair, even with that slight lead, most of the polls have the Trump campaign up by a small margin, but enough to grant him victory. So that will help him win the state of Michigan, and it's 15 electoral college votes. That helps Trump pass the 270 electoral college threshold, then leaves us with only 1 state left. So we will go to the polls in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, we'll go over there. Oh, no. Alrighty. So, where is it? All right, here we go, Pennsylvania. So in Pennsylvania, Trump is up by 0.4%. The last few polls that have come in have resulted in Trump being ahead by 2 or 3 points, and on the average, he's up by 0.4. So this is also definitely going to be a swing state for sure, but I do think that it will narrowly go towards the Republican side, being a narrow for a tilt victory for Trump, resulting in him earning 302 electoral college votes to Biden's 236. There have been these more recent polls have changed slightly the makeup of my electoral college prediction. I previously had the state of Michigan and Pennsylvania going to Biden, but the polls seem to be changing direction and going back towards Trump. So for now, we're going to keep those. We're going to revert those 2 states back to the Republican side. We're going to keep the state of Wisconsin for the Democrat. I think Biden has a pretty decent chance in that. We'll have to see what happens. I think he also might have a better chance than the polls are letting on in Arizona, with a bunch of different factors, with the Senate election and the abortion referendum, a bunch of different factors that are going to likely be somewhat helpful for Biden, but the question is of whether or not that will be enough to help him eventually win the state. It's going to be a close election for sure, but we'll have to see. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions about my electoral college map, and let me know if you have any video suggestions or anything you would like for me to talk about next. Thanks. Bye.